You might not notice it at first, but inflation is showing up everywhere. Your weekly groceries cost a little more, fuel doesn't stretch as far, and even small daily habits feel heavier on your wallet. What changed isn't just prices, it's your purchasing power. Inflation quietly chips away at what your money can actually buy, turning everyday expenses into long-term financial pressure. In the next moments, let's break down how this silent force is affecting your daily life more than you realize. Today, we will talk about how inflation is quietly affecting your everyday expenses. So before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. The hidden nature of inflation in daily life. Inflation rarely announces itself loudly in everyday life. Instead, it works quietly in the background, slowly increasing prices while people focus on their routines. Most consumers notice only sudden spikes, but the real damage comes from small, repeated increases over time. A few extra cents on groceries, a slightly higher electricity bill, or a minor rent adjustment may not seem alarming on their own. However, when these increases happen across multiple categories month after month, the financial strain becomes significant. Inflation reduces purchasing power, meaning the same income buys fewer goods and services than before. This effect is especially harmful because wages often do not rise at the same pace. People feel like they are working just as hard, or even harder, yet struggling more to maintain their lifestyle. Over time, this creates frustration, stress, and financial insecurity. Inflation also distorts perception, making people blame personal spending habits instead of economic forces. Understanding how inflation quietly affects everyday expenses is essential, because recognizing the problem is the first step toward adapting and protecting your financial stability in an increasingly expensive world. 2. Grocery prices and the shrinking shopping basket. One of the clearest ways inflation affects daily life is through food expenses. Grocery prices rise steadily, often without dramatic headlines. Essentials such as bread, rice, milk, eggs, vegetables, and cooking oil gradually become more expensive. In many cases, manufacturers use a tactic known as shrinkflation, where product sizes are reduced while prices remain the same. Consumers may not notice immediately, but over time they are paying more for less. This silent change directly impacts household budgets, especially for families who cannot easily cut back on food consumption. Eating healthy becomes more expensive as fresh produce and quality ingredients rise in price faster than processed alternatives. Inflation also affects supply chains, transportation, and packaging, all of which contribute to higher food costs. As grocery bills rise, people are forced to adjust their habits, choosing cheaper brands or lower quality options. This shift affects nutrition, health, and overall quality of life. What once felt affordable slowly turns into a financial burden, showing how inflation quietly reshapes even the most basic daily decisions. 3. Housing, rent, and utility costs rising together. Housing is often the largest expense for most households, and inflation significantly impacts this area. Rent increases are common, even in stable neighborhoods, as landlords adjust prices to match higher costs. Homeowners are not immune either, facing rising property taxes, insurance premiums, and maintenance expenses. Utilities such as electricity, gas, and water also increase over time due to higher fuel prices and infrastructure costs. These expenses are unavoidable, which makes inflation particularly painful in this category. When housing-related costs rise, households have less flexibility in their budgets. A larger portion of income is consumed by basic shelter needs, leaving less money for savings, education, or leisure. Inflation in housing also has long-term consequences, making home ownership less accessible for younger generations. Over time, rising housing costs can force families to relocate, downsize, or compromise on living conditions. This quiet pressure builds gradually, making inflation one of the most powerful forces shaping where and how people live. 4. Transportation costs and their ripple effects. Transportation is another area where inflation quietly increases everyday expenses. Fuel prices rise due to global market changes, taxes, and supply disruptions. Even small increases at the pump add up over time, especially for commuters. Public transportation fares also increase as operating costs rise. Beyond direct travel expenses, transportation inflation affects the cost of nearly everything else. Goods must be shipped, delivered, and distributed, and higher transportation costs are passed on to consumers. Vehicle maintenance, insurance, and spare parts become more expensive as inflation affects manufacturing and labor. For households, this means higher monthly expenses even if travel habits remain unchanged. Transportation inflation is particularly challenging because it is difficult to avoid. People still need to commute to work, attend school, and access essential services. Over time, these rising costs quietly eat into disposable income, making everyday life more expensive without any noticeable change in lifestyle. 5. Healthcare costs and financial vulnerability. Healthcare expenses are among the fastest-growing costs influenced by inflation. Medical consultations, prescription drugs, diagnostic tests, and insurance premiums increase steadily. Unlike other expenses, healthcare spending is often unavoidable and unpredictable. Inflation in this sector places a heavy burden on families, especially those with chronic conditions or elderly members. Even with insurance, out-of-pocket costs rise over time. This forces people to delay treatment, skip medications, or compromise on healthcare quality. Inflation also affects medical equipment, hospital operations, and staffing, further driving up costs. The quiet rise in healthcare expenses creates long-term financial vulnerability as people are forced to allocate more of their income to medical needs. Over years, this reduces the ability to save, invest, or plan for the future. Healthcare inflation highlights how rising prices can impact not just finances, but overall well-being and quality of life. 6. Education and child-related expenses. Inflation has a strong impact on education and childcare costs. School fees, tuition, books, uniforms, and extracurricular activities become more expensive year after year. Parents often find themselves paying significantly more for the same education their children received just a few years earlier. Childcare services, daycare centers, and tutoring also raise prices due to higher labor and operational costs. These expenses are difficult to reduce without affecting a child's development or opportunities. Inflation turns long-term goals, such as saving for college or private education, into constantly moving targets. Families must save more each year just to keep pace. Over time, education inflation contributes to inequality, as quality learning becomes less accessible for lower-income households. 7. Lifestyle costs and the illusion of overspending. Many people feel like they are overspending, even when their habits have not changed. Inflation in lifestyle expenses explains this illusion. Dining out, streaming services, gym memberships, clothing, and entertainment gradually become more expensive. Subscriptions increase quietly, often by small amounts that go unnoticed. Over time, these increases accumulate, tightening monthly budgets. People may cut back on leisure activities, believing they need to be more disciplined, without realizing inflation is the real cause. This can lead to reduced quality of life and increased stress. Inflation reshapes social habits, travel plans, and personal enjoyment. What once felt like affordable indulgences become occasional luxuries. 8. Savings losing value behind the scenes. Perhaps the most dangerous effect of inflation is its impact on savings. Money kept in cash or low-interest accounts loses purchasing power over time. Even if the balance remains the same, what that money can buy decreases. Inflation quietly erodes emergency funds, retirement savings, and long-term goals. Many people believe saving money equals financial security, but inflation challenges this assumption. When interest rates are lower than inflation, savers experience negative real returns. This means they are effectively losing money every year. Over decades, this erosion can be devastating, leaving people unprepared for retirement or unexpected expenses. Understanding this hidden effect is crucial for long-term financial planning. 9. Income growth versus inflation reality. While incomes may increase over time, they often fail to keep up with inflation. Salary raises rarely match the rising cost of living, especially during periods of economic uncertainty. This creates a growing gap between earnings and expenses. People feel financially stuck, despite career progress. Inflation quietly absorbs income gains, making financial advancement feel impossible. This mismatch affects motivation, career choices, and overall life satisfaction. Over time, households rely more on credit, increasing debt levels. Inflation-driven income pressure is one of the key reasons financial stress has become so widespread in modern society. If you liked this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up. Leave a comment and click the button to subscribe.